Coming live from the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on Auraria campus, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for listening to All Sports through Met Radio on mymetmedia.com, live every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. This is your host Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. So before I start the show, I hope y'all had a great week. To start off, at the middle every month, I post a video or talk about one stadium I went to. So stay tuned for future videos from stadiums across the US. For the month of March, I posted a video where I talked about Busch Stadium and my experience there. You can go watch that video on YouTube. You can also view videos from the past and subscribe to my YouTube page at All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to Major League Baseball. Ichiro announced he is going to retire after Thursday's game against the Athletics in Tokyo, Japan. Ichiro played 19 seasons in Major League Baseball and 9 seasons in Japan. He played the majority of his career with the Mariners. He played for the Yankees and for the Marlins. The highlights of his career was when he was playing for the Mariners. He is in the 3,000 hit club, and Ichiro had his 3,000 hit at Coors Field against the Rockies a few years ago when he was playing for the Marlins. Ichiro has 4,367 combined hits in Major League Baseball and from Japan, 3,089 Major League Baseball hits, a .311 Major League Baseball career batting average. He was a 10-time All-Star, a 10-time Gold Glove winner, the Rookie of the Year, and American League MVP in 2001. A lot of people don't remember this, but Ichiro did play a few years in Japan before he came to the US to play in the major leagues. He played on the Japan team, and then he was drafted by the Mariners, and in 2001 he started playing for the Mariners. Throughout the years that Ichiro was playing for the Mariners, he had a great career with them. The Mariners were also a great team as well. The Mariners had a lot of great seasons, a lot of great winning seasons as well. Ichiro was a great player. That was also his prime years as well when he played his best baseball. The highlight of his career was when he hit his 3,000 hit at Coors Field against the Rockies when he was a Miami Marlin. But a lot of people don't remember Ichiro playing with Japan before playing in the major leagues. And if you use the 4,367 combined hits in Major League Baseball and from Japan, he has more hits than Pete Rose or anybody in baseball if you add the Major League Baseball and the Japan hits. But even if you subtract the Japan hits, he definitely is with the elite players and a lot of great players that have hit over 3,000 hits throughout their career as well. Ichiro was one of the best players to ever play in the major leagues, especially one of the best Japanese players as well. So there's no doubt one day we will see Ichiro in Cooperstown, and Ichiro will be a Hall of Famer in the future. Mike Trout and the Angels have agreed to a 12-year, $430 million contract extension. Mike Trout's contract is now the largest contract in professional sports history. Before Mike Trout signed this new contract extension, Bryce Harper had the biggest contract in baseball. His deal was a 12-year, $330 million contract, so Mike Trout took over in that category. By now having the same amount of years, he's making $100 million more than Bryce Harper will. This was a great move for the Angels because they know Mike Trout is their franchise player, and they didn't want to lose him to another team that would be interested in acquiring him when he were to become a free agent in the coming years. So hopefully in the coming years we could see Mike Trout win a World Series with the Angels. I would really hate to see Mike Trout not win a World Series because he definitely deserves to win it. And with him signing this contract, the chances of the Angels making it to the World Series in the next few years are not that great, so it's just a wait and see what happens and what the Angels are going to do to improve the team around Mike Trout so they can get back into the playoffs and possibly win a World Series down the road. Paul Goldschmidt and the Cardinals have agreed to a 5-year contract extension. This was a great move for the Cardinals after they acquired him this offseason through a trade, and they definitely want to build around him and improve the Cardinals team because they're in a very tough division, which includes the Cubs and the Brewers. Alex Bregman and the Astros have agreed to a 5-year contract extension. Blake Snell and the Rays have agreed to a 5-year contract extension. I was surprised the Rays signed starting pitcher Blake Snell to a contract extension that was worth a lot of money because the Rays are not a big market team. They're known as a smaller market team, and they do not like to give out big contracts or pay their players. So they usually let their players walk in free agency or they land up trading them. That's what they did with David Price and Evan Longoria. They did not sign him to a new contract, so I was surprised that Blake Snell got a new contract. I was expecting for Blake Snell to have the same situation like David Price and Evan Longoria did. Eloy Jimenez and the White Sox have agreed to a 6-year contract. Eloy Jimenez is one of the top prospects in baseball right now, so he should have a great career with the White Sox. Carlos Gonzalez and the Indians have agreed to a minor league deal. I knew this was coming. The end of the Carlos Gonzalez era here with the Colorado Rockies. There is no doubt that Carlos Gonzalez was one of the best players to ever wear a Rockies uniform. There was a lot of great moments from Carlos Gonzalez, a lot of great games, a lot of highlights. He had many great moments as well. Some walk-off home runs, walk-off wins. He was just a great player overall, at the plate and on the field. It's unfortunate that the Rockies are moving on from Carlos Gonzalez, but they knew it was time. We have a lot of outfield depth and we have a lot of great players, and there wasn't really a spot where Carlos Gonzalez could fit any much longer because we got Charlie Blackmon in right field. He was in center field, but they're switching him to right field. We're going to have Ian Desmond in center field this year. Then we got David Dahl in left field. They also moved on from Gerardo Parra, Matt Holliday. They got a lot of outfield depth overall. They even have Romel Tapia and other people down in Albuquerque. So with the amount of outfield depth that we had, the Rockies knew it was just time to move on, since there really wasn't a spot for anybody else in the outfield anymore. So I just want to say congrats to Carlos Gonzalez on having a great career with the Rockies. Hopefully one day your number as well as other numbers will be hanging next to Todd Helton's up in center field above the bullpen. You would definitely deserve to have that honor. Carlos Gonzalez was always one of my favorite Rockies players, especially when I was growing up. He was always my favorite player. All the Rockies fans, including myself, are going to miss Carlos Gonzalez. He was a great person on the field and off the field, so congrats to you having a great career with the Rockies, and I wish you nothing but the best with the Indians. And now that you have a new door opening up, like you said, and that you're on a championship team, hopefully the Indians can make it back to the World Series and possibly win it in the coming years. So the Rockies fans will always remember Carlos Gonzalez, and we'll miss you, but we wish you nothing but the best. Gio Gonzalez and the Yankees have agreed to a minor league deal. Spring training is getting ready to end in a few days. We are coming up to the final days of spring training. The end of March is around the corner as well. Believe it or not, opening day is in 1 week from today. So I can't wait for that. The Rockies are going to end spring training early. They're going to go to Albuquerque at the beginning of next week and play an expedition game against the Albuquerque Isotopes. That's their minor league team that's associated with the Rockies. Then they're going to head on to Florida, open up the season against the Marlins down in Miami. Opening day will be on Thursday against the Marlins. They'll play them throughout the weekend. And then the following week they will go to Tampa, play the Rays during the week. Then the following weekend, Rockies baseball will be back at Coors Field on April 5th. On Friday, April 5th is opening day for the Rockies here in Denver. And they are going to open up against the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's going to be a great matchup that weekend. Opening weekend's going to be great here at Coors Field. Expected to be sold out that first weekend and on opening day. Last year the weather wasn't great on opening day for the Rockies, so hopefully this year it was great like all the other years in the past, except for last season. So definitely looking forward to opening day starting next Thursday, and for the Rockies home opener the following week as well. So currently there's 2 big name free agents that are still available, which includes Craig Kimbrell, a closer, and Dallas Keuchel, a starting pitcher. There's been some rumors out there, and according to reports, Craig Kimbrell is expected to sign with the Brewers. I don't know if it's going to happen once spring training ends or before the regular season starts. We're going to have to wait and see. Or Craig Kimbrell, there was other rumors saying that he could sit out this year, or he's going to sit out half of the season. I don't know. It's just going to be a wait and see. With Dallas Keuchel, there's been rumors saying that the Astros are interested in bringing him back. All the moves that the Phillies have made, they could definitely use another starting pitcher. So they would be interested in acquiring Dallas Keuchel. That's another wait and see situation as well. So hopefully before the season starts, we can see Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel sign with a new team. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. The NFL is suspending Browns running back Kareem Hunt for 8 games for violating the personal conduct policy. Free agency began on March 13, and there's been a lot of other moves that have happened in the last week. So right now I'm going to update you with all the moves that have took place. So to start off, cornerback Bryce Callahan and the Broncos have agreed to a 3-year contract. Tight end Jeff Hireman and the Broncos have agreed to a 2-year contract. Defensive lineman Zach Kerr and the Broncos have agreed to a 2-year contract. Clay Matthews and the Rams have agreed to a 2-year contract. Justin Houston and the Colts have agreed to a 2-year contract. Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Dolphins have agreed to a 2-year contract. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints have agreed to a 1-year contract. Cornerback Ronald Darby and the Eagles have agreed to a 1-year contract. The Bengals re-signed tight end Tyler Hiffett to a 1-year contract. Offensive tackle Eric Flowers and the Redskins have agreed to a 1-year contract. Blake Bortles and the Rams have agreed to a 1-year contract. Guard Nick Easton and the Saints have agreed to a 4-year contract. Linebacker Mark Barron and the Steelers have agreed to a 2-year contract. Defensive end Bruce Irving and the Panthers have agreed to a 1-year contract. Randall Cobb and the Cowboys have agreed to a 1-year contract. Linebacker Vontaze Burfict and the Raiders have agreed to a 1-year contract. The Ravens are going to re-sign Robert Griffin III. The Texans are going to sign quarterback A.J. McCarron. The Dolphins traded Ryan Tannehill to the Titans. The Raiders released Jordy Nelson. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NBA and NHL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NBA basketball. Dirk Nowitzki moved into 6th on the all-time scoring list. Klay Thompson moved into 17 in all-time three-pointers made. So, about 2 weeks ago, Russell Westbrook had a fan exchange in Utah. The last few times that the Thunder have played the Jazz up in Utah, Russell Westbrook has been getting into fan altercations with fans sitting courtside or fans that are on the sideline. And for some reason, it seems like it's an ongoing trend every time the Thunder go up to Utah. Of course, opposing fans never like the other team or the players on the other team because they root for their hometown team. They don't root for the visiting team. So these last few times the Thunder have been going to Utah, Russell Westbrook has always been getting into arguments with these fans. But this last time, this fan altercation escalated to the next level where it shouldn't have. And since people that were by this altercation filmed it, the NBA reviewed this footage that was posted online, and they ended up banning the two fans from going back to the arena in Salt Lake City. So they're no longer able to go see the Jazz play in that arena after this altercation with Russell Westbrook. And after the game, when all the media was around Russell Westbrook, he gave his opinion, and he stated that there needs to be more protection and security for the players. And he said that there's not enough, and that there needs to be an increase of presence, and there needs to be more security for the players, and that their safety is important. And something needs to be done about this. Even a few weeks before that, when the Thunder were here in Denver playing against the Nuggets at the Pepsi Center, when Russell Westbrook was throwing the ball from out of bounds, this kid that was sitting courtside landed up touching Russell Westbrook, and he got mad and he confronted the kid and his dad about it. And after the game, when he had his press conference, he stated the same thing, that that should not be allowed. There needs to be more security and more protection for himself and for the players in the NBA. Now with the NBA, the fans are allowed to be really close to the players. There's not really any other sport that you can be that close, because the NBA has all the courtside seats where people are sitting next to the court. But if it's football or baseball, you're sitting up in seats that are up in the stands. It's not as close as it is basketball-wise. Football and baseball and other sports are a lot different from how close people can sit at a basketball game. So there's been a lot of times that fans have got into altercations with players, or players are trying to catch the ball so it doesn't go out of bounds, and the players land up going into the seats and falling onto people, spilling drinks or food, or even injuring people a couple of times. So the NBA is going to look into this situation and see what they're going to do about it. But for right now, it's going to kind of remain the way it has been lately, but they may end up doing something about it in the future and just having more rules that the fans need to follow. And if the fans don't follow the rules, then they're going to be asked to leave, or they're going to be banned from the stadium for life. So as a fan, you always want to root for your favorite team or for your favorite players, but there's a certain point and a certain line that you shouldn't cross, and if you do, then you're going to have to pay the consequences, and the league will take action and get involved in it and take it to the next step. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here, but Russell Westbrook is not the only player that has had fan altercations this season. Kevin Durant and many other players have also had this problem as well. Brandon Ingram is expected to make a full recovery after having surgery to treat a blood clot in his right arm, and he should be ready to play next season. This season, there has been 11 players that have scored 50 or more points in a game this season, which broke the NBA single season record of 10. The players that have scored 50 or more points this season includes James Harden 6 times, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LaMarcus Aldridge, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, Derrick Rose, and Kemba Walker. The Warriors, Raptors, and 76ers clinched a playoff berth. The Nuggets clinched a playoff berth after beating the Celtics last Monday 114 to 105. The last time the Nuggets appeared in the playoffs was during the 2012-2013 season. Currently, right now, the Nuggets are the 2nd seed in the Western Conference, so this is a great position that the Nuggets are in right now. Last year, the Nuggets missed the playoffs by 1 game. If there would have been games that they would have won during the season, they would have got into the playoffs last year. But they're definitely not going to miss the playoffs this year. And I just hope that the Nuggets can go far in the playoffs this season. Up until the All-Star break, even when they had some of their starters out because of injuries, the Nuggets were a great team. And they were a team that looked like no one could beat them. But these last few games, these last few weeks after the All-Star break, teams have been able to get to the Nuggets. And there's some games that they've lost that they should have won. There's some games that they've lost by 1 point, or they just have won by 1 point. So the Nuggets need to play some better basketball. Otherwise, anyone looks like they can beat the Nuggets, and you don't want that to happen. And the Nuggets need to at least make it to the second round and not lose in the first round. No one expected the Nuggets to be as great as they are this year. People knew that they were going to be great and probably make it into the playoffs this year, but not be as great as they are this year. But they knew that the Nuggets had the potential going into the future with the young, talented roster that they have, which includes Nikola Jokic, a future NBA superstar, Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Paul Millsap, Will Barton, and many other great players. This season, the Nuggets bench has been great. The starting 5 for the Nuggets have been great. So overall, this season, the Nuggets have had a great season. So as we're coming down to the end of the regular season and going into the playoffs, hopefully the Nuggets can play some better basketball. And the key for the Nuggets to win games is to not start off the game slow, to start off the game fast, score points, don't leave players open. The players that make three-pointers on the opposing teams, you need to block them. If they can do that and play defense, they can win games. And in a few weeks, get ready, because it's time for some mile-high basketball. And it's time for some playoff basketball, and it's finally back this season. And I really do hope the Nuggets can go far this season in the playoffs. Right now, I'm going to give you the current NBA standings and playoff picture in the Eastern and Western Conference. So to start off in the Eastern Conference, at number 1 is the Milwaukee Bucks. At number 2 is the Toronto Raptors. At number 3 is the Philadelphia 76ers. At number 4 is the Indiana Pacers. At number 5 is the Boston Celtics. At number 6 is the Detroit Pistons. At number 7 is the Brooklyn Nets. And at number 8 is the Miami Heat. If the season ended today, right now the Bucks would be going against the Heat. The Pacers would be going against the Celtics. The 76ers would be going against the Pistons. And the Raptors would be going against the Nets in the first round of the playoffs. So that's the current playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, at number 1 is the Golden State Warriors. At number 2 is the Denver Nuggets. At number 3 is the Houston Rockets. At number 4 is the Portland Trail Blazers. At number 5 is the Utah Jazz. At number 6 is the San Antonio Spurs. At number 7 is the Los Angeles Clippers. And at number 8 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. If the season ended today, right now the Warriors would be going against the Thunder. The Trailblazers would be going against the Jazz. The Rockets would be going against the Spurs. And the Nuggets would be going against the Clippers. That's the current playoff picture in the Western Conference. And we're only 23 days away until the playoffs begin. Between now and then, a lot can change, so these matchups can definitely change as well. The seedings of these teams can change. They can move up and down. Some of the teams that are not currently in the playoff picture can move into the playoff picture in both conferences, so we're going to have to wait and see. But that's the current NBA standings and playoff picture in the Eastern and Western Conference. Moving on now to NHL hockey. Right now I'm going to give you the current NHL standings in the Eastern and Western Conference. In the NHL, the division standings go off the amount of goals the team scored, not by the wins or losses by the team. So to start off in the Eastern Conference, in the Metropolitan Division, right now Washington is leading this division at 94 points. And right behind them is the New York Islanders at 91 points. In the Atlantic Division, right now Tampa Bay is leading this division at 118 points. And they already clinched a playoff spot last week. In the Western Conference, in the Central Division, right now Winnipeg's leading this division at 92 points. And right behind them is Nashville at 89 points. And in the Pacific Division, right now Calgary's leading this division at 97 points. And San Jose's right behind them at 94 points. Calgary and San Jose have clinched a playoff berth. So that's the current NHL standings in the Eastern and Western Conference. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about college basketball and the end of the show. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to college basketball. It's that time of year, and it's underway now. Right now, the men's college basketball tournament is underway. It's time for some March Madness basketball. If you haven't, make sure to fill out those brackets and predict what teams are going to make it to the Final Four. What two teams are going to be the final two teams, and what team's going to win the men's college basketball tournament this year. It's always fun to fill out those brackets. Nobody can get a perfect bracket. Nobody ever gets an accurate bracket as well. We're still waiting for a perfect bracket. We don't know if it's going to ever happen. It may never happen, but if it does, will probably end up being a world record. The reason why people don't get perfect brackets is because you always know the best teams in college basketball. The team that's number 1, number 2 in the country. But you never know about those teams that are not ranked as high, or they're not ranked in the top 10 or the top 5. Those are the teams you need to watch out for. And if you've watched March Madness basketball these last few years, you notice that a team that's ranked 16, they'll end up beating a top 5 or a top 10 team in the country. So you definitely need to watch out for those underdog teams. The underdog teams have definitely surprised the elite teams in the past, and I could definitely see that happening this year in March Madness basketball. So definitely keep an eye out for upsets. It always happens every year, whether it's college basketball or any other sports. We always see it happen. So I'm just waiting to see who's going to be the underdogs this year and who's going to get upset. It's always interesting to see what underdog team can upset one of the best teams in the country. So right now, I'm going to give you my Final Four predictions. So my picks are that number 1 Duke from the East will go against number 1 Gonzaga from the West. Number 2 Tennessee from the South will go against number 1 North Carolina from the Midwest. I expect Duke, Gonzaga, Tennessee, and North Carolina to be in the Final Four in the men's college basketball tournament. Then I expect number 1 Duke will go against number 1 North Carolina in another matchup this season once again. And they'll be the final 2 teams. And then my prediction is number 1 Duke will win the men's college basketball tournament, with Duke being one of the best college basketball teams in the country. They always get to this point almost every year. And you always hear about Duke being one of the best teams, making it far in the tournament, getting to the Final Four, winning the tournament. It's almost a yearly thing, and it's a tradition that Duke's always mentioned and Duke's always here. So with Duke having Zion Williamson, the best college basketball player, I would expect them to beat North Carolina and win the tournament this year. So definitely keep an eye out for Duke. But if it lands up being Duke and North Carolina as the final 2 teams, I couldn't see North Carolina upsetting Duke in the championship game. So keep an eye out for that. But the tournament in March Madness basketball is definitely going to be great this year. It's underway now. It just began, so you definitely need to watch it and see who makes it to the end and who wins it once this tournament's over. Moving on now to end the show. What to watch for this week in sports: NFL free agency, the last week of spring training in Arizona and Florida. Opening day is next week. NBA basketball, the Nuggets men's college basketball tournament, March Madness. Next week is spring break. So next Thursday there will not be a live show from the Tivoli Met Radio studio. So you will have to wait until the following week to listen to All Sports with Gerardo live the following Thursday between 3:30 to 5 p.m. from the Tivoli Met Radio studio. But since it's spring break, stay tuned, because in the coming weeks I will still do a show next Thursday, but it's going to be posted at a later time, and you're going to have to tune in and see what I post to my social media pages in the next few weeks. There will be new footage, and there will be more videos posted to my YouTube page as well, so you'll have to tune in and see what it is. I'm not going to reveal or spoil what it is, but it's definitely going to be some great footage that's going to be released in the upcoming weeks, so make sure to watch out for that. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. I hope you all have a great weekend. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next Thursday. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports through Met Radio here on mymetmedia.com. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.